So this is session 8, and it's the second half of the medicinal sleeping aid slash tension in the middle of the night kind of thing. Now, I'm going to jump right in, since people, if they watched that last one, they knew I was going to be going right into this number 8. In our quest to help people with their spiritual therapies. One of the biggest problems we see is that people deal with their symptoms because that's what they've been taught to do. You know, everything that we have happen to us is in the form of energy. We've discussed it in our earlier videos. Everything happens in energy. If we have to assume that everything that we see around us is based on the interpretation of what has happened to us in the past. Now, what does that mean? We see certain things and we know shadow in the middle of the night. You're walking through your house and suddenly a shadow comes and you know that there may be an intruder. You put your hands up, and it could be just a shadow of the cat's tail walking past some kind of light, or it could be an intruder. But your mind sees that shadow on the wall and thinks baseball bat. Okay, and you go up to stop it and protect yourself and take the necessary action. Your body, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure immediately goes up. You go into an immediate sense of defense. Adrenaline starts pumping, and you are there to protect yourself because something reminded you of a possible sneak attack. Okay, that happens. That is our defenses, where our senses take in everything that happens to us, everything that we breathe, everything we see, everything we hear, everything we feel, every movement our body makes, and catalogs it and puts it on a shelf so that we can it will remind us in the future, good or bad. And that's why it's so important when you practice martial arts that you practice. You can't just learn it. You got to practice it so that you go. And when someone comes and in sparring, you've taken a few hits, before you know it, you anticipate the movements and you can stop them from making contact. Okay, because you've learned that this movement means that. They're coming, they start to lift their shoulder, you move so that they can't get at you. Move away, move into their weak spot, whatever it happens to be your particular defense. Okay, it is the same with every form attack. It's really the same with everything that happens to us all day long, every day. Blessings and curses. All we have all day long that happens to us is all a combination of blessings and curses. God gives every day new to us. If you believe in God, and you've gone this far in this video, I'm assuming you do. Everything that happens to us is all blessings designed to give us life every day, every breath, every drink of water, every piece of food, every kiss from our loving wife. If you have a loving wife. I have one. I was lucky, blessed. If all of the other things, these are things that are so positive, all these positive, but there are also things that are malevolent that come at us. The never-ending bills, because the bank wants to own us, so they enslave us, with their own purposes. And the never-ending attacks, mosquitoes and thieves and whatnot, they're attacking us. Our Brandon, let's go Brandon, that guy. All of these things, those are not designed to help us. Those are designed to hurt us. So we have that kind of, those are all these experiences all day long. Okay. When we start realizing that we can put the light on the dark sides, then we'll drive away those spiritual components, because when you put the light on, darkness must flee. Truths are light. Truths, finding out the truth about this stuff is putting the light on it. Finding out the truth that they put fetal tissue in some of our foods basically puts the truth on that and takes away the curse of that situation. Okay. So now that curse doesn't mean you can still go and just eat those products. Oh, nothing to worry about now. No, it still might have a physical effect on our body. Of course it will, because I believe that that's what a lot of this cause of these autoimmune sicknesses that are now suddenly popping up everywhere. And while we're on the subject of autoimmune suppressing, these things are supposed to suppress our immune system, our reaction to certain viral attacks. They say it themselves. They're immunosuppressors that are there, that are being put into these so-called medicines. Well, why would you want to suppress our system? Well, because your reactions are what makes you get sick. You get a reaction. Well, yeah, but if you suppress these immunoresponses, you in essence basically cause the body to or set up autoimmune type reactions. Then you are basically stimulating autoimmune responses. Well, it's autoimmune sicknesses that are causing all kinds of issues today, where the body attacks itself. Cancer in itself is a sort of almost autoimmune type issue, where your body suddenly decides to do something different than it's designed to do. In this case, grow, but not work. And your own suppressed immune system doesn't go and attack it. When they go and they give chemo for patients, first thing that goes away is their immune system. Why do they want to suppress their immune system when they want the person to get healthy? When it's the immune system that fights against attacks, because they don't want to reduce the body's ability to fight itself off. No, they want to do it. They want you to pay them to do it in their good time, in their program. So there again, when we start to look at this situation and we think about this stuff, the last thing we want to do is suppress our systems. But it seems like every solution they give us, whether it's this, whether it's a sleeping aid, whether it's a pain pill, it suppresses our reactions. Even when people take, for example, they have something happen to them, they have a hit to their spine, and then the spine swells. Now they're having pain because of that hit. Football player. Swelling, then they go in and they have swelling, and the doctor, first thing he does is give them anti-inflammatory medication. Well, that inflammation was there to put a cushion between the attacking agent and the tissue that they don't want to suffer anymore, because they've already suffered some trauma. Reduce that, and all you're doing is taking down that barrier. Well, yeah, but I need to get that swelling down because that swelling is causing me to have pain. Well, yes and no. You don't want to have that swelling go down if you're going to continue doing the thing that caused it in the first place. You want to take over for its function and say, hey, I got this. I'm going to stop the problem from occurring. I know what's going on here. I know what's attacking us. You don't have to be swollen anymore, but you can reduce swelling with other ways than taking a pill. Ice works just fine. Different forms of relaxation works just fine. You know, reducing the acidic situation in your body has a reduced swelling effect. Swelling is actually increases with the amount of acidity in your body. As a matter of fact, many people believe that arthritic conditions are caused primarily by acidic situations. So it's mainly due to the foods we eat that cause arthritis or the buildup of acids over time. So adding more acids, aka gout, that kind of stuff, adding more acids in the form of pills doesn't help the situation. It might reduce the swelling so that you feel a little bit more mobile. Take away the swelling, now suddenly the joint has more mobility. For temporary, you reduce the body's reaction by putting a cortisone in there so that you can't swell anywhere. But now suddenly your ability to respond to the actual toxins that are causing the problem in the first place have been reduced, so they can actually cause more damage. So the minute that effect of the cortisone wears off, you're going to have more problem than you had before, aka to keep taking the cortisone or keep taking the pills over and over and over again. Allergy medication the more you take it, the more, when it wears off, the more problems you have with allergic reactions to everything. It's almost like they make you hyper allergic. You think maybe that's why so many more and more people are allergic to everything these days? Kids. When I was a kid, nobody was hardly allergic to anything. A very few kids were, but not like it is today, where almost everybody's allergic to something all the time. And they take these anti-allergic pills literally like candy over the counter. That's what we have to get away from. Okay. So we're still on our situation, but now what do we do when we know that there's a mind, body, and spiritual component to this stuff? So this is where we get into the analysis part. Why is it happening at a certain time to a certain part of our body? That is God in his infinite wisdom, which allows that he told us that we are a house, a mansion with many rooms. That means windows, doors. Okay. That means when the attack comes in, it has to come in through a hole, a gap. Okay. That gap has a physical gap. There's a tissue that's affected. There's an experiential gap. It goes through a particular time frame in a particular manner. And it has a spiritual, that it's malevolent and it wants to cause harm. Okay. There's a spirit behind it. And that spirit is the biggest part of the attack. Once you realize this, you eliminate the spirit part. Once you know there's a spiritual component that is coupled with these attacks, that there's an experiential, that these attacks are happening to a particular part of our body at a particular time at night for a reason. There's a reason for that. It's not just arbitrary. There's a reason for that. So you start asking, why? Why that part of my body? Why that time of night? Why that kind of attack? If you don't know, you ask God. I started doing this about, probably about 10 years ago. When I first started seeing, maybe 8, 9 years ago, I started seeing that there was a spiritual component to these attacks, and there was a reason why. Okay. I don't know if I told this story, but I'm going to tell this story now because it's important. But what happened with my own shoulder? Okay. Here I am one day, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, my shoulder just starts aching. I'm talking about, I just couldn't put it, and I didn't do anything particularly to it, but even when I drove, I couldn't put it anywhere because it like hurt no matter where I put it. When I'd sleep at night, it was keeping me awake. I put a pillow underneath. It would hurt all the time. And finally, one day I decided, you know what? All right, I'm going to go find out what's going on with this thing. So I go to one of my best doctors that I know, this Dr. Seaver, Michael Seaver, orthopedic surgeon, a good friend of mine, sent me a lot of patients. I sent him patients and called him up. He said, yeah, come, I'll check it out. He did a thorough examination. I mean, an hour he spent on x-rayed it from, he said, I use primarily x-rays. I don't like to use MRIs. He said, I like using x-rays. He said, but I'll use probably about 15 or 20 different views. So he was shooting it from all different angles. I was in there probably 30 minutes getting all these x-rays, both shoulders, but mainly the one that was hurt, the right one. So he come back out. He says, well, here's the problem. He shows me the good shoulder and the ball's like this. And he shows me the right shoulder and it's sagged, how like that. He goes, you have what we call sagging shoulder, basically. The ligaments that hold the ball up into the cup have been stretched out. So now when you relax your muscles, they hang down. He says, you can feel it there. You can look, I can see it. I can see the gap. And you go from the acromion, which is a bone here, to the head of the humerus. And there was a gap. You could, like a divot, you could put your finger on this side. I didn't have it. On this side, I did. I go, why suddenly? He goes, well, he goes, did you ever overuse your shoulders, play football or something? I played when I was a freshman, but I did pole vault. And we used to have to stand on our hands and do exercises on our hands up against the wall for sometimes 15 minutes, There you go. I go, that's been 30 years. Well, he goes, I go, well, what are we going to do? He says, to be honest with you, there's nothing you can do. He says, it's not like I can operate and pull every one of those ligaments up. He says, total shoulder. I'm like, holy mackerel, I've treated people with total shoulder. It's never good. He goes, you're right. It's a coin flip. It's a 50-50. It's one of the worst. You flip a coin, you'll either get better or you'll get worse. But you'll never get full function back. Because when we put the new shoulder in there, you're going to be limited. You won't be able to put your arm completely up. All right, I want to see if I can work on that. I'll try it myself. Yeah, do some therapy yourself and try it. He says, but to be honest with you, it's not going to help. But you can try. So I went away. When I tell you I'm the worst patient, I'm worse than the worst. I went back. I might have tried some exercises one day, and then that was it. Out of a couple of weeks, I didn't do anything hardly, and it was still hurting like crazy. At the time, I was married, and my then wife I'm married now again, but that previous wife, she insisted that I won't go to see this chiropractor that she went and saw. Well, at that time, my chiropractor, and I'm like, nah. She goes, oh no, you need to see this guy. He's good. He's good. All right, I'll go see him, but because you're insisting. But so when I went in there, he looks at me, goes, well, how's things going? I go, good. How things go with you? He goes, good. I go, is there anything that you need help with? I go, you tell me. I was being cocky, So he looks at my back and kind of goes down and pokes around a little bit. He goes, what's going on with that shoulder? Oh, I thought that was kind of interesting that he spotted that pretty quick without me telling. I don't know. Doc, you tell me. He goes, well, you mind if I do kinesiology? We push on the hands. And when you say no, or the answer is no, your hand goes down. But when the answer is yes, your hand stays up. I go, yeah, I heard about that. Even studied a little bit in school, but I never really practiced it much. He goes, well, if you mind, So basically, he starts taking me through a whole series of these yes, no questions. And in the process, he determines that not only was the shoulder not structural, as I thought it was, I was sure of, but it was experiential. It meant that my shoulder was a product of something that happened to me, a decision I made when I was going into college, without getting into the specifics. So he takes me back then and he says, is this shoulder problem because of your decision? Yes. Then he said, why did you not go to this particular college, which happened to be West Point? I was nominated, got accepted. I didn't. I said, well, it's because they had hazing that year and kid got killed and I chickened out. Simple as that. I didn't want to go. Was the reason you didn't go because of that hazing? No. Was the reason you didn't go because of something that happened 2 years earlier? No. 3 years? No. 5 years? No. 6 years? No. 7 years? Yes. 8 years? No. 7 years? Yes. So you're 18 when you made the decision not to go. 8 years earlier, 7 years earlier, you were 11. What did you do when you were 11 that had anything remotely to do with the military? I don't know. And then, boom, just like that, I could remember. It just came to me as clear as day. I remember being with a friend who was a good friend of mine. His mother, he didn't have a father. His mother remarried. She married a military guy. And here it was summertime, and this kid suddenly starts crying because his new dad was sending him off to military school, and he was scared to death. Your reason for not going to West Point, was it because of that boy being scared of going to military school? Yes. The reason your shoulder today hurts is because of that event that happened to you all the way back then? Yes. So he reaches behind me, and what I do now, I do with other patients too. And he goes, you do know that something that happened to you back when you were 11 has no effect on your body today, especially something that you just heard. You do realize that, right? I do realize that. He goes, good, I'm going to release you from it. He snapped his fingers. He said, that's it, you're done. It still hurts. Yeah, but it'll get better. He says, we released it. It doesn't have effect on your shoulder anymore. I go, all right, that would be $20, $40, whatever I had to pay him. And I left. Next day, it did feel a little better, but not completely better, but a little better. 5 days later, felt a lot better. A week later, 10 days later, I had forgot when I'd ever felt, if I even felt the pain in the last day. So I waited about a week, another week, and I didn't feel anything. It felt great. Shoulder felt good. Didn't work out, didn't do anything. So I go back to Dr. Sievert. I said, he goes, well, how's it going? I go, I'd like you to do another exam if you would. I was okay. Go in there and take a couple x-rays. And he knew which ones to take because he knew which angle was the best. So he took 3 or 4 x-rays of the one shoulder, just one and the other. Come back in, he goes, what did you do? I go, what do you mean? He goes, puts up the x-rays. He goes, your shoulder's not like this. He goes, what exercises did you do? Because whatever you did, he goes, I got 20 other guys that I'd love to send you because they all need the same thing. I go, to be honest with you, I don't know what I did. I told him the whole story about the guy clearing it and it primarily being because of something. He goes, I heard about this. I heard about this. He goes, you know, I would have never thought that was true, except I had a similar kind of situation happen with me. And he told me his story. I'm not going to get into that because that's secondhand, but this really happened to me. When I started applying these same kind of principles to people's care, find out the cause, even if it's something that goes way back, a fear, suddenly the problem would disappear. almost instantaneously, and certainly within a couple of days. So I started doing this with my patients, and I started analyzing. This was about that time, actually a little bit later. It took me a little while to figure it out. I started actually doing this with my own patients and applying the causes, all the causes, physical, mental, and spiritual, because it is all energy. Remember, it's all energy. There's a physical event or tissue that's being affected. There's experiential attacks. But they're all energy. And in this case, energy with malevolence. Put the eye on it, the truth, and it goes away. Same with sleeplessness. Same with pain. But if you believe you have something, if you believe you have it, then all you're doing is reinforcing it over and over. And the attacks might come. They still come in the form of attacks. But now when you, in between the attacks, well, I have this. I am an alcoholic. I am a diabetic. I have PTSD. No, you don't. You're suffering from it. You're suffering from a lie that they want you to believe you have, so that you will take their solution to the problem they created. Makes sense? Same as this. They created the comorbid. They come up with a solution to get you to a certain outcome. Sound familiar? It's the same. It's just being ramped up. Same problem. They put the poisons in the food, the curses in the food, the curses in the air, the curses in the water. But at the same time, God doesn't allow them. Only God decides when people die. Plagues are not for them to decide. God decides. Plagues are for, he does that like with Pharaoh. Pharaoh wouldn't do what he was told. He kept telling him, let the people go. He wouldn't let them go. Hey, you want to play hard? We'll play hard. Want to play soft? We'll play soft. But want to play hard? We'll play hard. All right, it's coming. The frogs, the red blood in the river, all these, the locusts, all these different plagues come. Fire comes down and burns all the crops. They all come, different plagues. They're just plagues that happened to a lot of people. The innocent and guilty alike. That's a plague, because the leaders weren't listening. They're responsible for what happens to their people. Hey, you wanted the king. You're the one who wanted the king. I told you not to use kings, but you decided you needed kings. Okay, that means you're under their responsibility. They F up, you suffer. And that's what happened with kings. That's what happened after David. Good ones would show up, people would be great. Bad ones would show up, people would suffer. We have the same thing. And a bad president, we suffer. Have a good president, we prosper. Oil goes down to $0 a barrel. They couldn't give it away fast enough. And now it's crazy. Leader. Yeah, you wanted, we let them steal this thing. We know what's going on. Everybody knows. So what do? We know, we put our view on there. Okay. Okay. But we have allowed it to happen to us many times in the past. So it has done a little bit of damage. But the spirit's gone. The curse is gone. So now you can clean up the mess with a little bit of cleaning. Water is perfect for that. Water will clean up pretty much every mess, but so a lot of other things. Usually, when you look at the spiritual side, okay, why did it happen to a certain joint? Why did it happen in a certain way? What am I thinking about when I have these anxiety attacks? What's going on? That is a clue to not only how to stop it, but what is the best counter therapeutic to clean up the mess the fastest. Because you got to understand, if the mess is coming in the form of a needle hitting your body from a cactus over and over and over, the best way, first get rid of the cactus and then pull out the needles. Okay. You don't go and do a whole, you can do other things. You can take a bath and soften them up and they might fall out over time and different things. But the best way is to find out specifics of the attack, because that gives you a direct counter attack as a therapeutic. That's why it's so, God gives us everything in his scripture. He says, I will never present a person with a problem that follows me that I don't give him the solution to overcome. If he's meant to overcome, he doesn't die in the process. Sometimes we are called to be martyrs for Christ. No better way to go than to be a martyr for God. The ultimate medal of honor. Doesn't mean you go crazily out to battle hoping to get killed so you can be called a martyr. And that's not how it works. When God calls you, then it's time. Okay. But at the same time, in the meantime, we're given everything we need. Okay. He's given us everything we need. If we happen in a battle to sustain a pretty hefty injury, now, thank God we have a good surgeon who can stitch us up, put this tissue back together and sew it. Okay. Doesn't mean we have, and at the same time, get rid of the beast that's attacking us that caused the problem in the first place. Then we don't have to go and take anxiety medicine, worried that maybe that thing's going to come back tonight in the middle of the night. See what I'm saying? If sleep is a problem, it's not the sleep that's the problem. It's the lack of sleep. Why? What is going on that's causing us to be awake? Okay, that's one thing we look at. What is the problem that's causing the recurrence of the pain? Okay. Scientifically proven that every molecule in your body is substituted in 2 years. So that means if something had happened to you 10 years ago, your body has already replenished itself at least once, if not a few times in the process. So the only reason you're still suffering from that old injury is because you are fixated on it and keep thinking about it, claiming it with your mouth, saying, I have this, I have that, I am this. You know, our whole world, our interpretation of the world around us is based on not only what we see, but the interpretation of what we see. The only reason you know this is a book is because you were taught that this shape with these pages is a book. It might have some information that could be useful for a person in some cases. If you didn't taught that, if you came from a place that never saw a book and suddenly somebody held this up and said, here, This is good for you. Like, what is that? You don't even know what it is because you never saw it before. It's our world interpretation is based on what we see and what we've been taught. And the problem is the majority of what we've been taught has been manipulated by the system that doesn't want us to have a free and successful and God-loving life. It's a system that wants us to be enslaved. It wants us to be dumbed down, and it doesn't want us to go to God. So the system has been manipulated to do those effects to people. So that means the medicines are the same. The educational system, the doctors, the television, the politics, everything. The only thing we could trust, because even our parents who raised us were raised in the same system that told them this is how it is. See, it's now becoming very apparent that a lot of the world that we've been taught is, it doesn't mean everything's a lie. It means that there is a little bit of a manipulation in it. A little bit of manipulation. So when we don't know, we should go and ask God. Simple as that. I use the Bible as my reference point for pretty much everything. People say, well, there's all these missing books and the Bible's not authentic. No, yes, the Bible is authentic. The Bible is exactly the Bible that God wanted it to be. When I go and watch a movie like The Passion of Christ, and I don't have to even get at such a godly movie, which is obviously godly, I can watch that movie and I can get a different message every time I watch it. I'll be watching it and suddenly, boom, get a message. Some different line pops out that is specifically for me, for this moment, in this time. That's God speaking through everything around us. And he said himself that had they not praised him when he walked into Jerusalem, even the rocks themselves would have screamed out. See, everything in creation is created by God. Everything has the ability to be used by God to talk to us, regardless of what the enemy may have done to manipulate it. It doesn't matter. God can take it and use it anyways. He can use people. He can use movies. He can use Biden, maybe. And if you believe that, then it doesn't matter that there's a book missing or a book, because what God is there, God will use. And it doesn't matter if they could rip it in half. It doesn't matter. He'll just use the other half. Because he can use people like you and me. And he uses you. And when we go and we decide we want to be used by God, that puts us down this path of not only an active participant, but now we become soldiers in his army, because we are going to fight for the good side, regardless of what it costs us. Now, the enemy knows that, and they're going to attack. And they're going to attack us when we're the most vulnerable. And they're going to attack us in the chinks in our armor. And for you, my dear friend, PTSD is one of those chinks. For you, this thought that you have addictive things, that's not true. You were misled to believe that these certain reactionary measures were the way to deal with these attacks. So you chose to use an alcohol or sleeping pill or something like that as a way to deal with an attack. And at first it seemed to work because the attack seemed to subside. The attack that you believe was inside of you, this desire. But over time, that manifested more and more and more and more, and you had to keep taking, and after a while, it didn't even seem to have an effect. That's the plan. So now that we know the plan, it eliminates the curse, and we can thus now go and use countermeasures to fight it. So the next time you start to feel that feeling, say, wait, I'm not playing. Go. I know it's a curse. God help me. Help me see. He does. There is not a father that doesn't love their children, a good father that doesn't reach every time a child reaches up for help, that the father doesn't reach down and take and lift up. And if the Father in heaven loves us with infinitely more than we could possibly love, the best father in the world could love his child, how much does he love you so that every time you ask in need, he's not going to give you, at least reach down and comfort you. Hey, sorry, but this one I'm going to have to let you. I love you and I'm going to comfort you, but you've got to learn here. So you're going to learn this lesson in a little while. Yeah. It's all part of the plan, but you're moving forward, and you're putting God's truth. You're taking truth and passing them on to people. That's a frontline soldier that is doing it with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. It is millions. You have hundreds of thousands of followers, and they bring that message to others. So there's a ripple effect. And as they do it, especially when you encourage them to pass it on, that's what we should be doing as much as possible. Pass this information on. That's what I'm doing. Try to pass this on. Yeah, I can't do what I'm doing. I'm not willing to take this. I'm not willing to promote this. So it's very hard for me to get work right now. So, you know what? Fuck them. I'm going to make it even harder for them. I'm going to pass on what I know to everybody I know. I know there's stuff inside that medicine. I know because I've seen it. And I've had doctors, friends of mine, who've showed me that those medicines are not what they say they are. And doctors who know that they're bad for people. But it's the only option a lot of people have because they don't know any different. They don't realize that God gives them everything they need to overcome right here. They just have to reach down and get it. You can go and grow. It's been proven that if you grow your own plants, like a tomato plant in your yard, simple plant, pick one, doesn't matter, basil, tomato, papaya, pick something small. Basil is easy, tomato is easy, vegetable, herb, like a basil plant. It's been scientifically proven that the plant will excrete specific enzymes that will not only help, but will cure the ailments of the people who grow them. Scientifically proven. Now, where does that come from? You know where it comes from is they were finding cures to ailments in the Amazon. But when they would go down there and take the plant that would help these people and bring it back to the United States and then synthesize it, try to copy it, it wouldn't do the same thing it did for them. Why? Because there in America, they're not them. They're growing that plant there. So it helps them with their ailment. You got to grow your own plants. That's how it's done. The majority of medicines are based on witchcraft. As a matter of fact, a lot of the components in them are witchcraft. There's curses involved, mercury, witchcraft. You know, a lot of that stuff is formaldehydes, toxic oils in these pills are part of witchcraft. They put them in there for a purpose, to facilitate a curse. Baby fetal tissue, to facilitate a curse, and maybe have a physical effect on the body in the process. But they really hope for this curse to get you enslaved, dumbed down, and away from God. Enslaved dumbed down and away from God. That's their purpose. That's what the enemy wants to do. If he can't put you on his team and make you a soldier in his team, okay, that's what he tries to do early on. When he realizes he can't get you, then he goes on to try to destroy you. Yeah. I hope this helps. And I will get these thinged over and I will send you. Now I know that you've got the first 6, so I don't have to send you the other 6, but I will send you 7 and 8 today. And then we will push on with 9 and 10 the next time. Love you, brother, and hope to talk to you soon. And for you guests who are watching this video, I hope you learned something and take it to heart. Give me a call, posture.is.everything@gmail.com. Take care.